Hello, guys and girls, and welcome to episode 185 of the F.Reality Podcast. Get your snacks ready and strap in for a roller coaster ride of the latest VR news. We're going to be talking about Tundra smashing their Kickstarter goal with their new Steam VR trackers. The latest Steam VR hardware survey shows VR is on the rise. Ubisoft are implementing VR support in their Snowdrop game engine. Nathan will be giving you his hands-on impressions of the SenseGlove for Oculus Quest 2, and I'll be sharing my experience with an ultra high-end headset from Varjo. Jam-packed episode today. And then, of course, to round up the show, as always, Zim is going to be there to give you the latest releases to look forward to next week. But now, let me introduce you to the team and find out what's been the highlight of the week this week, and also let us know what your highlights are in the chat so we can read out some of those too. First up, this guy went full Wade Watts in VR this week, trying out some Ready Player One style haptic feedback gloves. It's our blonde brother from another mother. It's of course Nathy. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thank you. And yes, we will be talking about those gloves later down the road, right? It's gonna be
yeah.
Gonna be
Any
awesome.
other highlights from this week? Anything else you've enjoyed, played, want to share?
Well, I've been diving even deeper into the pancake realm with my PlayStation 5 because I have this PlayStation subscription with all these old games called PlayStation Now, and I played Indiana Jones, the Lego one.
Wow,
It's great.
Yeah.
Lego.
It's great, especially co-op is amazing. But one of my highlights of the games that I played was Ape Escape 2.
Oh my god, dude.
I never played Ape Escape before, and I wasn't sure what it was all about. And then I played it, and I was like, this game actually aged quite well. It was really fun. And I was like, who came up with the idea to make a game in where you have to catch monkeys with different gadgets and stuff? I was like, this is great stuff. And then you start to fantasize about a VR version of this where you have to catch something, you know, with different tools. I'm like, this is cool.
How does this game work? Because I don't know anything about it. I've heard of Ape Escape.
Really?
And I actually never seen it.
I thought you were the one that played this game. Yeah. So as I said, like Ape Escape. Well,
Is that an insult? Is that a stab?
Yeah, what you saying? We saying?
I don't know.
Is it a good game?
No, it is a good game. It is a good game. I didn't play the first one. I just couldn't find it. I went straight for the second one. I kind of skipped the story, to be honest. I was like, I can't take this game serious in that sense. But the gameplay was really nice. So you have different levels with different kinds of monkeys that you have to catch. So you have monkeys that can run real fast. You have monkeys who can swim, monkeys that can fly, and you get different tools along the way that you have to use to catch those monkeys. And the monkeys, this is why I was addicted to this game. Not because of all those gadgets, but because of the fact that every time you catch a monkey, you collect it in this like Pokédex and you get information.
Wait. I'm calling you out here. I'm calling you out here because since I ran a Gorilla Tag event, 2 months ago, Nathy and a group of people have been just spamming my DMs with bananas and monkeys and apes, and it's absolutely insane. You have a problem. You need to see a doctor, my friend. There was something ape gone wrong with you.
I do have to say, because of Gorilla Tag, I started to get more interested in ape games,
monkey games.
I hope you get one of those thematic. Have you guys ever had like one of those thematic Christmases where
he's been spending hours in front of the gorilla cage? Like
Now he's just been eating bananas all day. You know, he's just living the monkey life.
No, but like, have you guys ever had one of those thematic Christmases where like a grandparent or something or an uncle like knows that you like cats, so you get all cat stuff? I hope you get a Christmas that's just all ape-related things.
What we should do is individually, we should all send him something monkey-related, like every week. He just gets bombarded with monkey stuff.
like one banana all the way from Canada.
And like the little foam banana sweets that you get at like the cinema, send him a bunch of those. Yeah, nice. So your highlight of the week is a flat pancake game called Ape Escape.
Ape Escape 2. But I want to say one thing about it.
Sure.
So the first monkey I catched was called Tomky Cruise.
Right. Okay. Is that the end of the story? Great story, bro.
That's it. Thank you.
Welcome to our VR podcast.
Don't tell PD. Don't tell PD, by the way.
Tell PD.
Does this game have DualSense controller
No.
implementation? No.
No,
but then-
I was like, I bought a PlayStation 5, and 2 weeks later, I'm playing Ape Escape 2. Says enough about the content.
such a noob. Such a noob.
I,
Right, let's
I,
move-
I got a question,
let's
lads.
go-
Wait.
go on.
To make this even slightly maybe VR related, I saw a post that made me nervous about the new PlayStation haptics, where it was talking about the new haptic controls, DualSense, I think. What are they called?
Yeah.
DualSense.
The adaptive triggers.
Yeah, the adaptive triggers, and the analog sticks on the new PS5 controllers developing a drift, and it was demonstrating in a video what was happening.
Yeah.
Are either of you nervous about that? Have you seen those reports? I'm just curious because I've experienced. We were just talking pre-show about like Nintendo Switch, and I've had so many of those controllers I've had to buy, and they're expensive. Like I don't know what do these controllers cost, and is that a problem that you guys are worried about? Coming up in your device?
They cost like 60 quid, so they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons had some reported drift issues, and I have seen the same with the DualSense. I've experienced it a little bit, but not to the point where I'm like, oh, this is frustrating, or I've lost a game because of it. Do you know what I mean?
You've already you've felt that minute of.
When I was playing Sackboy's Adventure, sometimes you'd let go of the sticks and he would maybe move like a fraction still. Do you know what I mean?
So is it more oversensitivity than drifting, or is it somewhere in the middle of that?
And I'm not really sure. I'm sure like over time they'll resolve it.
I have
but-
not noticed it.
My God.
And, I would only notice something like that when I would, as you said, you would let go, or you would be AFK for
Yeah.
a moment, and your character would start to spin in
Yeah.
circles and things like that. But
I have to say, I haven't noticed it in any game since that though, and that's only
okay.
happened like a couple of times.
Well, I'm going to
so-
say this to everybody who's because Nathan's face reminded me of this. Drift on the DK1 and DK2, for example. So you used to get an Oculus Rift drift where you'd be looking forward, and then before long you'd be looking backwards or to
Oh,
the side or
God,
something.
yeah.
That doesn't happen in modern headsets, thank God. But like that's gone. But yeah,
They were
I
the
saw
glory
those
days.
controllers, and I was like, when you were talking about this
Oh.
ape game, I was like, oh God, I hope.
Oh, you mean the
doesn't
drift
come.
that happened with the CV1 like a few months when it launched, and
Yeah.
I'm
things
talking-
were going all over the place, and the play spaces moved like to left and right and stuff like that.
So that did happen, but I'm talking pre
Oh, you
CV1. I'm
talk about,
talking
like, the-
like the DK2, because like
Okay.
you'd be recording a video or whatever, and you'd start to move because the tracking would be off. Because at the time it was just. Do you remember that little boxy camera? It was terrible. Anyway,
Yeah, you had to put it on your monitor.
yeah,
that's
we've been
true.
talking long enough about this. Yeah, back when Oculus tried to manufacture their own cameras.
Oh, yeah, that's been a while.
Yes.
Right. Moving on from monkeys and DK2s and controllers. Next up, this guy loves nothing more than being stranded on an ocean craft in VR, and apparently he has a new best friend called Wilson. It's the VR castaway. This is him Talk 5. How you doing?
Yeah, that dovetails well. I actually just finished today watching Castaway, which is now on Netflix. Yay!
Great movie.
I don't know if that's a.
Can you do a Wilson for me, like a scream?
Oh,
Wilson.
no, not today, not today, Rowdy. These guys know I was saying it as well. I'm not feeling 100%. So today, if I misclick something or whatever, I blame it on that. Okay. But yeah, I suppose surviving on a raft with other people certainly contributed to my state at the moment. 4 hours yesterday in Oceancraft, which was good. It's really fun. It's super social, and that's nice. Like setting up shops, and we had our own economy, selling those drug packets, which you call palm leaves, for money. And then you're buying fish and stuff. It was amazing. Yeah.
I saw that. I mean, it looked like you built like IKEA on a raft. Like it was enormous that place. Like,
Yeah. We had a really cool kind of survival bit. I mean, watching Castaway makes you want to play Oceancraft, and playing Oceancraft makes you want to watch Castaway. They kind of feed each other. So I definitely did that this week, and that was nice because that wasn't a pain in the ass, and it was very social and was lovely.
So are you more of a leader or more of a follower in that sense?
I'm
You have to survive with other people.
I'm more of a hunt down people who tried to steal from the sellers and
Oh, wow.
take their
You've gone full
serial
Lord,
killer.
Lord of the Flies on the
Yeah,
others.
I'm the muscle on the raft, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
to. And just like that, though. So the social surroundings of a raft, and I think that game's great. And I talked about it a little bit last week. So my highlight's a little bit different this week. So my highlight would actually be I went back to one of my old favorites in poker because of the social side. I went back to poker, and I went back to Poker Stars and Poker VR, two apps that have been there for quite some time now. and I participated in a tournament, and you had an entry and you had a prize. And I almost never win these tournaments. I thought I was going to win. I didn't. Long story short, but it was a 90-player tournament. Got up to like 11th place on this table. Got knocked out. Guess what? At what place they start the prize structure, huh?
The next space up.
10th. Yeah, 10th.
Yeah.
So I missed out on that. But I felt a little bit better because after that, I was like, I feel good for myself, pat myself on my back, went over to the cash table, started playing, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to risk it all. So I had, whatever, a balance of 26,000 of fake money or whatever. Sat down at the table, started talking with some people from around the world, which is normal when you're playing poker, playing cards. And one guy at the table's like, hey, I'm new, and my buddy, he wants to sit in and play. And we're like, all right, grand. So this guy comes in, he plays at the table. We're playing a hand. I've got a really good hand, and I'm feeling very confident. Put a lot of money in. And this guy's like, I got to call him. So he calls me out on the table with his buddy's stack, goes all in with all of his buddy's money. I wipe him out. His buddy comes back in the headset. He's like, oi, who took all my money? And he's like, Zip, did you take all my money? I'm like, I would happily do it again, sir. And it was so good to watch this guy. And then he's shouting at his buddy who's in the place with him and all that. So that was loads of fun. I forget the guy's name, but a shout out to him.
How rich are you now?
I don't know. It's like 36 or 40K. It's not huge because my account, this is the weird thing about poker VR, between the different versions of the game, there's different accounts. And like they did a Samsung Gear VR. Anyway, it's poker app, and
it's nothing compared to your actual bank account, of course.
Yeah, thanks. Ask me more things about money live. That's a good one. I'll feed you that one back in future round. But yeah, that was my story really. I had a lot of fun with that. The thing I didn't have fun with this week, which was kind of a major ball ache. You don't expect after 6 years for a patch to come to a game. And as of course, a server owner and operator, it hacked 6 hours out of my life and most of yesterday evening, unfortunately for me, getting all my Assetto servers back up because they patched one car after 6 years and it wiped all my servers out. So I have to do a lot of manual work and literally, and that's fast. Like it used to take me maybe 18 hours to do the work, but now 6 hours to get all that back. So that's where a lot of my VR time unfortunately went this week. They're all back up and running again because I've got an Easter special race tomorrow, and it's like I had to have the servers back online. So there you go. Dedicated server admin, but sometimes you got to pay the fee. So
you're ready to race now.
Ready to race now. Can't wait. That's gonna be fun.
Very good. Very good. So next up, this guy is half Belgium, half Canadian, but 100% rowdy. It's the one and only Rowdy VR. How you doing, dude? You all right?
I'm doing really good. Yeah. I think the highlight for me this week was I played a game that came out I believe last month. It is called Luna. I don't know if anyone else tried that one as well.
Luna. Yes.
Re-release.
It's like a narrative VR experience that is interactive in a way. So first I was like, I thought it was a little bit more, kiddie-like, because from the art style, it looks very beautiful. But when I was playing it, the feeling that I got from it was I was looking at some kind of like VRification of like Le Petit Prince from Saint-Exupéry, if people know that.
Totally know that one, Rowdy.
Just speak more French, and we'll just nod and agree.
The Little Prince. I mean, it's a very famous book.
No.
Wait, okay.
Never heard of it. We're uncultured swine, I suppose.
Okay. But it's like a puzzle experience that is. I mean, I don't think that puzzles are that complex. It's fairly simple to get through. But what I really liked is the interplay that they did with music, because it's very the emphasis is very much on sound, and then the voiceovers that are happening. So what happens in this game is that you're, I don't know if you actually are a little bird or if you're just like some kind of like exterior kind of being that is like kind of like working with it. But the narrator kind of tells what happens to the bird and what's going on, and the world has been kind of like frozen over, something with a storm. I don't really want to spoil too much of it. But it's a fairly short experience, I would say. There's about 6 levels with 6 different puzzles that you need to solve. But what made this unique for me, and I've been trying that more and more, especially during the lockdown, is that it feels again like one of those like VR immersive theaters. Like it's not really like a game that you're playing. It's not really a movie that you're watching. There's an interactive element. There's a story being told. It actually feels much more like a book with an interactive element and very nice visuals and sounds, which is something that I think is as VR is a really great medium for as well. It's not like something that you play when you want to like have some action or something, but it's more like a very relaxing kind of experience, and I really enjoyed that one actually. It's called Luna.
Did you unlock? Did you unlock the chainsaw at the last level?
Yeah, at the end. Yeah, and then you can go through it.
So, what platforms is Luna available on? Do you know?
Yeah, it's on Quest. I played it on Quest.
Oh, okay, on Quest.
It's also on
Nice.
PC because I think it came out. I don't know, 2-3 years ago.
2017.
And
I think.
now they ported it over.
Is this the one
Yeah.
you're in like in a fishbowl or a terrarium and you've got like little bits that you can spray? Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong game, but
You're not in a fishbowl,
feeder
but,
VR, Sim.
what's that?
but you do need to like. They're like little strings. Like everything that you place are like little strings that you can touch that make like different kind of sounds. You need to do it in like a particular order.
Yeah.
For the bird to find its song bag, or like for the turtle to wake up, or like something. Like you need to do like certain things in specific sequences.
Yeah.
Which is a nice way of doing it.
Can you do this with hand tracking as well?
I don't think so, since I tried it when I loaded in, but it immediately went to controllers when I was in the game. So
Did you
not
try to
entirely
use
sure,
your
but
hands?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I did,
Well,
but I don't think.
okay.
I don't think there's an option.
You sure those were your hands?
Nels in the
They
chat
have these
says.
like little things in front of you, so they're like little graspers.
Okay.
So I don't think it will work with hands.
Okay. Nels in the chat says, "I'm French and you sound good." I think she's referring to you, Rowdy. Your French is good.
I sound good, but how do I look?
Yeah, not so much. That's why you should tune into the video
It's the
version.
part where Carol like leans in, right?
Nudging down, like don't worry.
Says the man who looks like an Easter egg with a beard.
True, that's true. Happy Easter, everyone.
Easter egg man.
So, what about the chat? What have they been up to? Any highlights from them?
Yeah, so we have Watto UK who has a broken left index controller.
Ooh.
So he's stuck to Sims at the moment. I don't know which is Sims. Maybe it's the Animal DLC, or I don't know what he's into.
Oh well, most Sims only require the headset, right? So like whether it's flying Sims, driving
those Sims. I thought like The Sims. I thought he was playing
Not
that.
like The Sims 4.
honestly, we should have the Sims in VR. People would play that. People would totally play that.
100%.
Although people
we kind of have experiences like that in a certain way, like Day Sim, where you can pick like villager. You play like kind of like a god being. And
which is available on App Lab.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
But you can't really torture people in that. Like people want to torture people, right?
Yeah, you want to take out
you can
take
throw
out
them
the
with
doors and
volcanoes.
then put everything on fire.
Or trap them
Remember,
in.
we can't say torture on the show.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise we'll get
Don't
nicked.
say it again. You're saying it again.
Go for a swim in the swimming pool. Take away the ladder.
Okay,
Have fun.
so Watto also played Auto Mobilista 2,
Yep.
Elite Dangerous, and Flight Sim 2020. So yeah, it wasn't The Sims. Then we have Delirium Drew, who has been playing VR MP multiplayer. He has been jumping into Walkabout, Mini Golf, Synth Riders, Pop 1, Hyperdash, Poker Stars, and did play a lot of Doom 3 and some Cosmo Dread. And then last but not least, we have David Peters, who says, he's right. He says a Planet of the Apes spin-off in VR would be interesting. Well, there is already one. I think we spoke about it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's been a while ago it came out, but I think he's referring to Ape Escape in VR. And I can't agree more. So, Mike, can I make a guess what your highlight is?
Go on.
Is it something related to your watch or...
No.
Not this
I've
one?
turned my watch off this stream, so it's not going to happen.
Okay.
What do
I'm
you
not going to
mean?
get raided by Siri again.
Dude, that's
If it's not us saying something stupid, it's my watch saying something stupid. So,
Yeah, true.
let's try and.
That's an immediate highlight of mine for the entire course of F.Reality. That was incredible.
I'm glad that my watch was able to troll me.
The audio version
Entertain you all.
sounded so much better and clearer.
Amazing.
By the way, it was someone in chat or in the comments resolved it. They said it misheard index. Yeah.
Oh,
and that's
that
what's
makes
triggered it. So yeah.
Okay.
If anyone was here last week and wondering, and if you weren't here last week, absolutely go back and listen or watch to last week's episode.
Go
you
check it out.
cannot miss that.
So my highlight this week was, well, I have two highlights actually. Firstly, I finished Cosmo Dread. which I was over the moon about. I streamed it for like 2.5 hours, tried insanely hard to get a run where I finished it. I hadn't finished it prior to that, and it just didn't happen. I did get quite far. I unlocked the handbag, which is like extra inventory slots. It's actually called a handbag in the game. I don't know why they call it a handbag, but you can 3D print a handbag for more.
Imagine walking around in this creepy ass game with your handbag.
With it like a Louis handbag. Yeah, like you're going out.
Gucci.
Throw it on the ground, do a little dance.
Is that potentially...
Dude, I did manage to unlock the handbag.
Wait. Is this potentially like a Lost in Translation thing? Like, should it be called something
possibly.
else?
Yeah, it should probably be called something else.
Any suggestions
like
how
that.
it should be called?
They should call it like a backpack
Rucksack.
or something like that, I guess.
Okay,
yeah, or rucksack.
Yeah.
But that did help, and I had like 2 guns strapped to my hips, and I was like plowing through the game. Got quite far, was low on health, saw 2 little dudes in the hallway. I gave them all names, so like the one with multiple eyes was called Lucy, the big dude was called Eugene, and I fuzzed a grenade over there to kind of finish them off, and I was just about in range of the grenade, so kind of like nuked myself as well. That was the last run, so I gave up at that point. Jumped in the following day and just blitzed it first go, like no problems. So it is a bit of like the roll of the dice, I think, the luck that you get with the drops and the monster layout and the map layout and stuff. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that game. Looking forward to more content hopefully added in the future, different sort of maps and stuff like that. That would be really cool. But yeah, really love that game. So if you're interested in that kind of like grindy, rinse, repeat, die, collect stuff.
Do you still feel like there's a reason to go back to the game now after you finish it?
Not really. No, there are the modifiers, of course. So you can play it with like just crawlers, which I called Little Harrys, or you can like change it up by giving yourself less health or less inventory slots or whatever. You can modify the game that way. But honestly, I think once you've finished it, you probably won't go back for more, and that's why I'm hoping for more content, because I do want to go back. Because I do think the core gameplay is really, really fun.
What kind of content would you like to see then?
Just like a different layout, maybe different objectives, maybe finding another cosmonaut or something like that you have to bring oxygen to keep alive. Just something to mix up the gameplay to keep it a bit more interesting. That would be really cool. So fingers crossed for more content in the future. But I'm sure if the game does well, the dev will add more over time. But my main sort of highlight of the week was Floor Plan 2. I also finished that. That came out last week. I was a big fan of the original Floor Plan, which released on Oculus Go. If you're not familiar with it, it's kind of like a cartoony style crazy puzzler. So it's a puzzler, but the puzzle design is quite unique, and sometimes it's not really logical. It's kind of got its own kind of logic to it. But yeah, I plowed through it. It's got 2 elevators in this one, and you move around a bit more, which is interesting. You can actually teleport within the game, so you're not just confined to the elevator this time. Also, they did some really fun things with hand interaction, and we've talked about this on the show before, that not many VR games use hand interaction as your kind of way of responding or interacting with other characters in game. But what they do is they have like a thumbs up, thumbs down system. So when you're confirming something that someone said, you either give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down, which is really nice. So I thought that was really smart. Some of the later puzzles, super challenging, and I have to admit on the stream that I did actually contact the developers and say, look, I have been pulling what little hair I have left out over this last puzzle. Like, I don't understand what's going on here. What do I need to do? And they did kindly let me know what I needed to do. And I was just stuck on the last 2 segments of the game. Okay. I felt like those last 2 puzzles didn't make sense compared to all the rest of the puzzles in the game. You kind of have to do something quite unique. I won't spoil anything, obviously, but I did find that a little bit frustrating, and they could have given you a bit of a way of sort of explaining it, something to help you out in that sense, but they didn't. But overall, I did really enjoy it, and I think it took me around about 3 hours to finish. So if you like Floor Plan, you're looking for that more kind of like zany, cartoony, fun sort of puzzler, then you'll probably enjoy this one as well.
So replayability wise, again, it's
again, you wouldn't want to go back and play it again.
Or do you have to mod it? And then
well, you could mod it like our friend James and have like a siren head in there, for example. That would make things interesting.
Sonic Fish.
But they do actually have an overtime mode, so you can go back to previous levels, and play through them again. And you collect these little furry red creatures, and you basically trade them in for currency, where you can unlock different gloves for your hands.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
that's a little modifier there for
You know what game Turbo Button also made that was amazing is the Adventure Time title that they did.
Yes. Yes.
That one is also fantastic. It's a third-person VR title. It is PC, but yeah, definitely check it out.
Wait. You're talking about the Adventure Time VR from a couple of years ago?
Yeah. What was it? Hetman's... I don't remember the
Headman Games
full
or
title.
something?
Yeah, Hetman's Head Games or something.
I remember playing that and giving it an avoid. What did you like about it? Yeah, I remember
I
hating
thought it
it.
was amazing, but that was also because there weren't that many third-person titles out there.
Yeah, and you were a big fan
Adventure
of... Yeah, exactly.
Time, so
Okay,
then it's a combination of the two. But,
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. I think I remember saying that as well, where like if you're a fan...
a basic platformer, but...
yeah, exactly. It's pretty fundamental. But Mike, I was just going to correct myself, I think last week I said... that this was a re-release. I thought it was the original floor plan that was out when I mentioned it when we were covering last week, which it isn't. It just dawned on me midweek. I'm like, wait, this is a new game. I didn't even realize. So if, in case anyone thought it was the old floor plan, it's a new floor plan. Hence the two.
Is.
Did they discount the first one in any way, or is it just...
I don't think so. To celebrate it, I don't think so.
Do you have
no.
to play the first one to enjoy the second one?
No, they're both very separate little stories.
Nice visuals on it.
I think I actually enjoyed the first story more, but the second gameplay is more engaging. So, yeah, I enjoyed them both.
Nice.
So let's jump into the news then. First bit of news this week is that the Kickstarter campaign for the new Tundra trackers is now live. And if you're not familiar with what the Tundra trackers are, they're these small little trackers that are designed to be used with Steam VR headsets for object tracking, for mixed reality or production applications, or they can be used for full body tracking in VR social applications. Now, the Kickstarter for the Tundra trackers launched on Monday, the 29th of March, and they've already smashed their original goal of 180,000 British pounds and are currently sitting at 630,000 British pounds, pledged by 2,300 backers at the time of this live stream, with 55 days left to go. So they're going to go even further, I'm sure, maybe even hit the million mark, which will be great to see. As we know, Vive has just released the Vive Tracker 3.0 a couple of weeks ago, and this product from Tundra is aimed at offering an alternative option to that product. And there are some key advantages to the Tundra Tracker over the Vive Tracker 3.0, such as it has a smaller footprint when compared to the new Vive Tracker 3.0, even though that is a smaller design of their original tracker. This Tundra one is even smaller. It will be lighter at just 46 to 50 grams each when compared to the 75 grams of the Vive Tracker 3.0. It will offer a similar sort of life in terms of battery life, around 7 hours of playtime with the Tundra, 7.5 hours with the Vive Tracker 3.0, so you're getting a similar sort of battery life out of it. But with the Tundra, you have two mounting options. You can use a strap mount with a loop, so you can put it through your belt, or you can sort of thread your shoelaces through it to mount it onto your feet, or you can use a traditional tripod mount. Now, the thing with the Vive Tracker 3.0 is that it only comes with the tripod mount, meaning that you have to invest in straps like the ones from F.Reality to kind of strap them to your feet and your waist, whereas this is more of a versatile mounting option, although you can remove it and have the tripod mount if you want to with the Tundra. They'll also be releasing 3D CAD designs, so you can print your own 3D mounts if you wish, if you need something quite unique or creative for production purposes, for example. And then you also have the fact of price. This is going to be cheaper overall if you buy more. So the Vive trackers sell for 129 British pounds or 129 US dollars. The Tundra will be the same price individually, but there is a saving to be made when bought in bundles of 3 or more, as 3 together costs $300, 5 is $456, and they also include a super wireless dongle in the package. And
Which
for
is
me,
called?
Wait.
a super wireless dongle. That's the name.
A super wireless dongle.
They did on. Did you notice that on Twitter?
Yeah,
they
so
did like a competition.
Yeah, they asked the community what the super wireless dongle should be called, and the community voted for Dongle McDongle Face. So they were like, we can't call it that, so they called it the super wireless.
No,
dongle.
seriously, not another one.
No, they still have it on their Kickstarter though, because on the pictures they have it called Dongle McDongle Face.
That's
Yeah,
great
but when that boat, right, got voted to be called Bodie McBoatface or whatever,
Yeah.
and then they didn't follow through. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's a sin. What a sin. Like, someone should... Anyway. No one should die for it, but it's still a sin. It's a sin.
Wow, extreme. But for me, like the key advantage of the Tundra is that they only require a single dongle for multiple trackers. So say if you buy the 3-tracker bundle, you get a dongle that can track 3. If you buy the 5, you get a dongle that can track 5.
The only problem
Go on.
that I'm wondering about that, because they have specific dongles for the amount of trackers, right? So you
That's
have
right,
the dongle,
yep.
the SW3, the SW5, and I think also SW7.
That's right.
But
yeah.
if you, for example, buy the SW3 and later you say, I want to get 2 more trackers,
Yep,
then you're going
you're
to have to
stuck.
buy another dongle as well.
That's right. Yeah, that is right. Yeah. So you have to know going in either if you're going to expand in the future. But what the good thing is that if you've bought like the Vive trackers like me, and you don't want to mess around with individual dongles per tracker, which you have to do with the Vive ones, you don't have a choice, and they start racking up your USB ports, you can actually buy this wireless dongle from Tundra to use with the Vive trackers. They're compatible across the range.
Nice.
So even if you're not interested in the Tundra like trackers themselves, you might be interested as a power Vive tracker user for full body tracking, interested in their dongle, which you can also buy individually through the Kickstarter campaign. So
you mean if you already own trackers?
yeah, you already own trackers, but you want to free up like a few USB ports on your machine.
What was the price of that again, Mike? For the just for the tracker, the dongle? Do you know?
The dongle alone is about like, but I only saw the SW3 on there, I think, and that
They
was
do them
like
all.
$45 for the SW3.
Yeah, they do them all, and you can upgrade. So once you add the SW3 to your basket, you can upgrade to the higher versions by paying more. Through
But
the
can you
Kickstarter.
get, for example, the SW5 or the SW7 separate now?
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
didn't see that on there.
you just buy the dongle package in the Kickstarter campaign, and then you go to the next page, and it will say to upgrade your pledge to the additional versions. Yeah,
okay.
that's how you buy it.
Maybe it's just me feeling a bit ill today, but I gotta be honest with you. This is like when we had the announcement about all the new HTC headsets. I feel like you just went through a configuration sheet that I did not follow.
Yeah,
It's okay.
There's a lot there to know, but I'm sure that if you're au fait, like if this kind of product appeals to you, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Your ears will listen.
Yeah,
Exactly.
if you're not interested in Vive trackers like Steam VR, then you'll just be like, yeah, he just talked nonsense for 3, 5, 10
Although
minutes, whatever
I have
it was.
to say, like, I do feel like they're going in the right direction, because like 46 to 50 grams, that's like really, really small, right? That's not a lot of weight anymore that you're adding. Of course, if you put it on like certain points, like your wrist and something like that, you still have, a little bit of added weight. But I do feel like this is like, another step in the right direction with these things. Also, the profile of them is so small. Yeah. If they keep on like getting smaller and smaller, then eventually we'll see these things just being integrated. Yeah, that is the Vive tracker. That's quite.
Yeah, this is the new one as well. So
And then the
it's
new
gonna
one
be
didn't
smaller than
even
this.
become small, like didn't become that small compared to the original. So it's like Vive kind of waited it out, then threw something, and this is something that they have been thinking about a little bit longer, it seems like.
I think having like a single dongle for multiple trackers is the key selling point for me. Had I not invested already in these ones, then I probably would have gone the Tundra route. But I think I will be buying one of these super wireless dongles to consolidate all my dongles into one.
Good tip anyway. I think, that's probably the one takeaway that I would have taken if I was a Vive user.
Your dongle,
Yeah.
dongle
I'm
face.
particularly surprised with the amount of money that has already, gone into this Kickstarter.
It went super
considering it's only
fast.
live, what is like a couple of days. But I'm wondering how much of that is like really like actual consumers, or whether it's like more like companies that want to like use that for like 3D motion tracking, or like I mean, I don't know. It would be interesting to get those numbers, because if indeed there's such a large consumer base, interested or willing to spend money on these kind of trackers, and maybe in a future edition of a VR headset, we'd see that actually being integrated. Which would be
I think a lot of
kinda neat.
companies. I think a lot of companies have been. Usually, you see that with everything. It was same with Cat VR, right? And like the whole VTuber market as well. You have like these Japanese companies that buy into this too. So I think there are a lot of companies who like spend a lot of money on this Kickstarter.
There was a good question in chat a bit earlier from Ray Pope asking if you might know this, but will these trackers work through Steam VR with, for example, a Quest 2 connected via virtual desktop? Any of you guys know the answer to that?
So it's like when people were using the Quest with like index controllers, or like the Rift S with index controllers.
Yeah.
It is possible, but there's a lengthy setup process you have to go through. You have to mess with the dongle firmware. You still have to have base stations. It's an absolute nightmare. I wouldn't recommend doing it. So ultimately, anything is possible if you've got the will to do it, I suppose, and the money.
At that point, you should be buying a PC VR headset.
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. But in terms of the setup and the process of, adding these trackers to Steam VR, it's exactly the same process as setting up the normal ones. So you're all good to go if you're familiar with that setup process. I'm sure the VR chat crowd and the kind of, people that love like full body tracking will be into this. And if you're interested, if you back it now, you'll receive your order hopefully in September. Although, as we know with Kickstarter campaigns, particularly VR ones, some of them get delayed, some of them indefinitely. Yeah, so just bear that in mind. But congrats to the Tundra team. They've done a good job with getting the Kickstarter campaign up and running and smashed their goal already. So congrats to them.
I'm just going to briefly clarify. I told you I was ill. I just caught an issue. I on the title here. Now, audio listeners won't have availed of this, but that was not just a 20-minute ad break. Just so that you guys know, that was all the weekly news. Thank you. Sorry, Zam. Anyway,
so the next bit of news is that Valve recently released the latest Steam VR hardware survey, which shows VR is on the rise, which is great. The new stats, which are released every month, show a record high number of VR headsets connected to the platform at just under 3 million headsets, which equates to around 2.3% of all Steam VR users. Steam users now own a VR headset. So 2.3% of all Steam users now own a VR headset, which is great. Road to VR did a great job on crunching the numbers and putting them into perspective, stating that it took 41 months for Steam to reach 1 million monthly connected headsets. So when sort of, the consumer VR market first kicked off. But then it just took another 11 months to add nearly another 2 million users. So it really is
That's
kind
a
of
healthy market.
Yeah.
That's a healthy market.
Yeah. They say that year on year, the number of headsets connected is up by 110% every year. So that is, like you say, very, very good sign of things to come in the future. I can break down the most popular headsets, which were sort of stated as in ranking on the Steam VR hardware survey. So there's no surprise that Quest 2 is dominating, holding a 24.25% share of those connected headsets. So that's kind of the leader in terms of the most connected headset to Steam VR right now. Followed by that, you have Rift S at 20.96%, then the Valve Index at 16.37%, the original HTC Vive holding in strong at 12.24%, then it starts to drop off significantly with the original Oculus Rift at 7.7%, Windows Mixed Reality at 6.5%, Vive Pro at 2.27%, Vive Cosmos, sadly, at just 1.02%, and the Vive Cosmos Elite at just 0.98%.
Imagine if HTC would have made a successor to the Vive that was actually pretty legit.
Yeah.
Then they could have had still a big chunk on Steam. Well, we know how that ended with the Cosmos, but still, I'm saying, Vive is still a reliable headset that people still use.
I was surprised though to see PlayStation VR in that list as well for even a small percentage.
Yeah, you can use it.
Is that even possible?
The hacker boys.
The thing that I don't understand, right? Because the PSVR, it's actually it almost amounts together to what 0.09%. Because Ivory is that interconnection software, which is absolutely rubbish. But you can take your PlayStation VR headset, connect it to your system, and then use basically vision-based head tracking in certain games. It doesn't work well. Don't install it. It's a real pain to kind of crowbar off your system once you install it. So just take my advice on that if you're not really desperate. If you're really desperate and all you've got is a PC and a PlayStation VR headset, maybe that's worth tinkering. What I don't understand is what is the separate PSVR aside from Ivory? I don't know. Is there another mechanism there? Did you answer that query for yourself, Rowdy? Because I don't know why there's a separate PlayStation VR line in that hardware survey. That doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know.
It's just that even the numbers are great for Quest 2. It's like the rest should be pushing more. It's the same with Valve. If they would have invested into some more indies or made some more games themselves, it would have been a lot higher. And that's the same for Windows MR. We haven't seen a new Jumanji VR game in a while. Maybe they should make a new one,
Well, they don't invest in VR software. That's the problem.
No, that's what I'm saying. And you can see that in the numbers. Of course, with Quest 2, it's not like Oculus is magically spending money on PC VR stuff either, but that's because of its low price. And that's why
they did spend a big chunk of change on Medal of Honor, although it wasn't successful. No, it was an Oculus title that was on the Steam
Okay, but
VR
that's one game, and that's also Medal of Honor of all the freaking games. But you know what I'm saying? It's
no, I do agree. We do need some more
the
games.
Price, the reason why it's growing on Steam is because of the price, because the headset is cheap, and with that you can buy a nice computer.
Yeah.
But with the other headsets, they are already expensive on their own, and then
plus,
you need a PC.
we can't forget the killer feature with Quest 2, and that is virtual desktop. It is the best way.
Yes.
If you've got a decent Wi-Fi connection, that's close to your play space, you can play wirelessly PC VR content with Quest 2. It's incredible.
Well,
it's the best way to play VR.
This is the thing that I found really interesting, because you get a really good kind of cross section. And one of the reasons I mentioned having played poker this week is when you're sitting around the table with people from all across the world, you get a really good cross section of what's going on. And it always hits the table of like, what headset are you using? And people are talking about, buying Quest 2 primarily for their kids, for their wives or partners or whatever. And it's really interesting because there's such a buzz on the number of people talking Quest 2 right now, way more than I was even anticipating. And the main number in that survey that stood out to me was that 2.3% of Steam users have a VR headset. We've crossed the 2% mark. So for all of you who were the 1%, the 2%, like now we just got to get the other 98% of those guys and girls into VR, right? Easy, no problem.
Almost 3 million headsets. That's a good number. And just to sort of break down the sort of market share on Steam VR, so we got 58% held by Facebook with obviously the Quest 2 and Rift S. You've got 16.5% held by HTC with all the sort of Vive Pro, Cosmos, original Vive headsets. 16.4 held by Valve with the Valve Index, 6.5 held by Windows MR, and 2.6 held by other VR headsets.
I just find it crazy that Valve has still managed to push that up, that number so much compared to where HTC was, before Valve was even an option.
But still, I find it unbelievable that Valve owns freaking Steam and is not pushing harder. It's just weird.
But the thing is, they don't necessarily need to. Do you know what I mean? But that is the problem. They don't need to.
But they can if they want to.
They could if they want to.
They could really raise the number to a point where we're like, whoa.
But maybe they are doing something, but they just do things on their own time. So it's just a matter of time.
Well, that's the thing. They are doing something. They're always doing something, but at their time.
Yeah. But Oculus also shared some interesting stats this week, and they mentioned that the Quest 2 has not only outsold all previous Oculus headsets individually, but all of them combined, which is extremely impressive. We still don't have any actual hard numbers.
That's the thing.
But it's an impressive stat nevertheless. And interestingly, Palmer Luckey pointed out in a tweet this week that there are more VR users on Steam now than those using Linux. So we're slowly overtaking the minority users on the Steam platform.
All the mathematicians and scientists out there just grumbled and groaned.
Yeah. I think Mac next.
How does that make you feel, Rowdy, downtown?
Most of those Linux users probably already own a VR headset.
Elitist,
it's just
bastards.
I think it's insane to think that it outsold all of the other headsets. I think the only headset that it wasn't hard to outsell on is the Rift S, to be honest. But the other ones, it's quite impressive. Although, as Mike said, we don't know any numbers. So, the CV1 could have been this VR enthusiast number where we always thought it was huge. Well, in the end, it wasn't. So, I mean...
It's always been hard to get numbers out of Oculus.
I think it's smart from them to, because in our, I'm sure in all of our minds, it's huge. But it might not be that way,
it's really interesting. There's no Oculus Go shown in there. I mean, there are other headsets. I know it's not a 6DoF headset. It must be swept up under, because even the DK1 is showing in that list. Mm-hmm. And it's weird, but the DK1 is a higher percentage than the DK2. That is strange to me. But the software stack of getting a DK2 working is a real pain. You have to really go for archived stuff. It doesn't there's almost nothing you can play on Steam now with it. So
That's
But
true.
there are like places where people can't get their hands on certain headsets, or they just simply don't have the money for it. So there are people who are diehards and using a Go or something else to play games with.
I tell you who it is that's keeping those numbers alive. It's Eric Hartley. He's buying up all those old Oculus headsets and connecting them to Steam VR, and he's keeping those numbers alive.
Oh, that's why. Yeah.
So
0.1%.
exactly, yeah. So there are the Steam hardware survey stats. So you've got some numbers to crunch there. But flying through the news, the last bit of news this week is from Ubisoft, as they recently announced in a blog post that they're adding VR support to their in-house Snowdrop game engine. Now, this is particularly exciting for me because I was a big fan of Ubisoft's The Division, and they used the Snowdrop engine in that game, and it was a very visually impressive game. Whether or not that will come to VR, that sort of level of fidelity, we don't know, but this is a good sign anyway. And what they're saying is that they started making VR escape room experiences using the Prince of Persia IP, and we talked about this on the show a while ago. And for those games, they use an external game engine for development, and they wanted to change that. They wanted to have full control over the engine themselves. So they stated that one of our main ambitions is to make our own VR titles, but we are also very open to collaboration on other projects. We started this with We started this project in November 2019 and soon saw its potential. We increased the number of people working on it, in part because we realized that the combination of Snowdrop and VR would do something useful for a lot of projects across Ubisoft. And they sort of stressed that using the Snowdrop engine will increase the development speed and turnaround time of their current productions.
Yeah.
And this could, they didn't confirm it, but this could be the engine that powers the next Splinter Cell VR game that we know is in the works, potentially
And
Assassin's Creed VR game. Yeah.
And the Far Cry experience.
Please. Yeah, that would be pretty cool as well. Right.
Yeah.
Have they always, are all their games developed with that particular engine, or do they still
So this is the transition that they're making. They've previously developed using other sort of third-party engines.
Okay.
Now they want to keep it all in-house, so they've got full control over it, which kind of makes sense.
That's
But
unique stuff, because I mean, same with Crytek with the Climb. It's like there's almost like most of the VR games we play have been made by with Unity or Unreal Engine. So it's interesting.
That's great news though, because that means that whatever game that Ubisoft develops in the future using this engine, there will always be like one hurdle less for VR to be integrated, because it's already integrated into the engine, right?
Yep.
That's
And
kinda
like we've seen with like Valve, with the Source engine, they did great things with with Half-Life Alyx. So yeah, it's great to see that Ubisoft are one of the bigger game studios out there. They're continuing to push VR forward, developing and implementing their own VR solution into their own game engine, which is great. And maybe one day we'll have our friend in Sony back on the show one day to give us a few insights into what it was like maybe working with them, because we know that's what he's up to at the moment. So yeah, hit us up, Nin Sony. Tell us what you know. So yeah, that's all the VR news this week. A little tidbit there about the Snowdrop engine. We've got some Steam survey hardware stats and obviously the Tundra trackers as well, the Kickstarter campaign. But now let's jump into the hot topics. We've got two for you today. One is going to be Nathy talking about his hands-on experience with the SenseGlove, and then I'll be talking later on about the Varjo VR1. So Nathy, tell us everything you know about this SenseGlove. Is it something interesting? Is it something not so interesting? It's for the Quest 2, right? So it is kind of interesting, I guess.
It's not only for the Quest 2, it's also for PC VR headsets and standalone headsets. So that can also be the Vive Focus or the Pico Neo. So the SenseGlove Nova is a haptic VR glove that does haptic feedback, force feedback, and can also be used for motion capturing as you can move your hands. So that's kind of nice. It is for, mainly enterprise, although with this one, you can, if you want to, also buy it as a prosumer, because they are not, cheap. They're $5K in dollars.
Wow. Okay.
So it's if you are a rich consumer, then, but I'm just saying that you don't have to sign up as a company and do all that stuff, to get it. So that's kind of cool.
Wait, is that $5K per pair of
5,000.
gloves or 5?
Yeah, a pair,
Just
not
one.
one.
Just one.
That would be something, right?
I just want to make sure. Yeah.
But then you also get, of course, their support and stuff like that. So if there's something going on, then they can help you out. And they also have an SDK that you can use to build with. So there's more to it than just a pair of gloves. It's a Dutch company, by the way, so that's why I got to try it so quickly. I saw them announcing it during CES. I was like, I need to check this out, especially with the whole pandemic going on. There isn't that much you can try, so something around the corner is kind of nice to travel to. And I tried the Dexmo gloves before. I think Mike also tried those.
Yeah.
That's on a total different level. I would also not compare them because those are, what was the price again, Mike? Like 25, 30?
It was like 50K.
It's like freaking
Ridiculous.
insane price.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what you can do with these gloves is like feel objects. So you can feel the shape, the density, and the mass of an object. So when you grab, for example, a Rubik's Cube, you can feel it. And then the motors inside these haptic gloves, they pull your fingers back so they stay at a certain position. So it really feels like you're doing it.
Do they have one with like gemstones embedded on the back of it? That would be kind of epic.
Click your finger. Yeah.
No. I haven't met Thanos there trying it out, but I can totally recommend it. So what they use is like these little like fish wires, like strings that run like through, like on the top of your fingers to this magnetic like motor, and those are the brakes. So those will hold your fingers back at a certain position. So they let me try a demo in where you were in a space station and you had to do like simple tasks. It was kind of like a toy box kind of game. I had to like throw things into a trash can. I had to fix some kind of machine with what was it, like a drill, and you could feel the trigger of that drill, for example, like when you pushed it in. So those were all kinds of like showcases of what these gloves are capable of. But yeah, the most interesting part to me, because I already tried haptic gloves before, so it didn't necessarily blow my mind, but the fact that you can now use it with standalone headsets and that it's completely wireless. For the Quest, I do have to say that you still need to use the controllers. So the controllers of the Quest were attached on the top of my haptic glove. So there's like this 3D printed like shell that you can click them into and use it that way. It's not like it's not possible to use it in a different way. It's just that Facebook doesn't give them the freedom to use the Bluetooth to its full capabilities, and same with the tracking. It's not open source. So those devs have to just kind of be creative. I wish they would open it up, but we all know that Oculus is working on their own glove. So it's not like they would kind of give this out of their own hands.
So we got a question from the chat, and I'm wondering about that as well. Since you played around with the PS5, the DualSense controllers and their adaptive triggers, like how would you compare this to this particular glove?
Well, it's kind of like using the same kind of like sensations. I mean, I don't know how the DualSense has been built from the inside, because I mean, you're pushing it with your finger. Well, with these haptic gloves, it's like pulling your finger. So it's the other way around. It's kind of similar in the sensations, but it's not the same, in terms of how it works. But yeah, it could give you a good idea of what it's like. So yeah,
do you have like an idea on like what the specific purposes that they envision for these kind of gloves? Since you're saying it's like more for like business operations, not consumer.
No, so
what kind of like business purposes do they think?
Yeah, so they like for the army, for example, where they have to fix a tank or a jeep, and they have to hold these tools. And
so it's
also
training purposes.
Yeah, training purposes.
And have they mentioned anything about like remote operation? Like like in areas where you can't get to with robotic control.
I've like
motor operations there.
Like I don't know the specifics on that, but I saw someone on LinkedIn talking about that too. They said they weren't ready for that just yet, but they are looking into it because I mean, you have the gloves, so why not use those capabilities
one-to-one
to your full
interaction.
potential. Yeah, of course. So with the Pico Neo, on the other hand, you could just use it without any controllers. So it just connects to the gloves without any things that have to be attached to it. And that's the same for the Vive Focus. So that's really interesting and really nice. It was like a breath of fresh air to be not connected to a PC, but just be able to take those gloves with you and just play wherever you want without having to worry about, where you are. So I thought that part was like super innovative and unique and different and very exciting, because of course we want to use these gloves in the future with consumer headsets too, like the Quest, and play games with them, because it can work for games. It's just that it's too early for that, especially if they're 5K, So yeah, that's kind of like the Sense gloves in a nutshell.
So just to sort of reiterate, it sort of makes you feel like you're grabbing an object because it restricts the finger movement with the wires and the motors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And did you think, I know we said we shouldn't compare like the Dexmo and this glove, but do they give you the similar sort of sensation?
I think the Dexta robotics gloves are just far in development in terms of like how strong they are and stuff like that. These were a little bit nicer to your fingers. So even that I still had to really put pressure on stuff, it's not the same thing. And I think the reason why I was more impressed by the Dexmos is because they had just a more interesting demo. And what they have is still, well, they could make a better demo basically and impress people with that.
The Dexmo one had that like beating heart demo. That was such a great demo where you could hold like a human heart in your hand. You could feel it beat.
Exactly.
It was incredible.
Yeah, and water dropping on your fingers.
That, right?
Yeah. It's like you just done a Mortal Kombat, Kano finishing move, and you've got the heart in your hand. That's what it felt like.
And like the water, falling on your fingers and like, that kind of stuff. They didn't really have that. It was less physics based and more about grab this object, do this, do that. Well, with the Dexmos, it's more about the physics and they could definitely do more with that. It's just that I wanted to try it early, and I was also the first one to try it outside of the company. So I was the first one to say, okay, I like this, I do not like that, things like that. I also tried their older model, the development kit one that they made. You might remember those as those kind of Edward Scissorhands kind of type.
The blue ones?
Yeah, the exoskeletons. Those were also still very impressive. It's just that I was wired. There were like Vive trackers on them. So the freedom wasn't there, but still the moment you're in VR and you can feel things, it's even for the exoskeleton, I was like, wow, this is good stuff. So they're 3D printing everything in-house. They're doing everything themselves. So that's really nice. And as I said, it's a Dutch company. There aren't that many VR companies in my country that are at that level where, they're starting to sell haptic gloves to people.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll ever see this for like consumers for gaming. I really don't know whether it's something that would be attractive for a consumer to buy or not.
Maybe dumbed down and more basic, as someone mentioned, like the adaptive triggers that we have could be used in a glove form too. But not what they have here, because they have so many functions here that are just upping up the price. It's not that's not gonna happen. But I do think like basic sensations, because I don't remember the name of those gloves, but those gloves were like super basic. I think Tyrael was like their ambassador for a while, where it was more about like you felt like haptics on the top of your fingers, because I think a part of using haptic gloves and the experience you have with them comes from the imagination. There are certain things that you're like, I felt this, and they're like, well, we didn't really add that to our gloves, but you felt it, so so a part can also just be imagination and you kind of having the feeling. And that's why I'm saying just haptics could already be enough for people to have a great experience in VR.
Because I think the problem has always been is like the locomotion aspect, isn't it? Because right now we need thumbsticks to maneuver around the virtual environment. VR treadmills never took off, and I would imagine if we had gone down that route, then maybe these accessories would be more attractive because we'd have a different way to move around. But as we don't, and I don't think VR treadmills will ever be a thing, in my opinion.
Slide mills.
Yeah. then we're kind of always going to need some sort of controller interface.
But what about intent? Because that mind control unit that you used before, what if you blended that into a headset and essentially you're taking conscious thought as your indication of where you want to go? I mean, it just kind of overrides what we presently have as an analog input.
Or eye tracking as well could be used for that, I guess, to teleport to different nodes and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, the problem is just, for teleportation, I can see because you can use focus. The problem with these kind of things is that they're often collecting so much noise, and you need to try and make sense out of the noise that it's hard to get sensitive input, especially for something like if you want to
walk,
controller interaction or getting specific buttons. It's going to be very hard. Indeed, for teleport, what you suggested, Mike, if you want to focus on one point, but that's not going to be well, maybe in the future it will, but at least for now, you need to first collect that amount of enough trigger for the headset to actually know then, okay, he wants to go there. So it's always going to be a delay. It's not going to be as instant as we want it to be.
Well, the interesting part is that with Waltz of the Wizard, they have hand tracking too, and they didn't necessarily solve the locomotion problem, but you can use certain gestures to make yourself run around or walk around, and then also stop and continue. Also with Elixir, they use certain gestures to do it. That was teleportation, but still, it's enough to keep you moving. So for, let's say, training purposes and stuff, because as you said, it's going to be a while before we're going to have freaking gloves that can also let you run around, so it's a nice solution in between, but I get it. There needs to be some way, but locomotion has been the main thing that everything
I think they will find a solution eventually to the locomotion problem. It's not because we don't have a solution now that we don't see anything coming
tapping
out
into
in the
our brains,
future.
maybe.
No, I think
running
something
around
physical,
naked in the boots.
I don't think I'm not fully writing off treadmills for the future. I'm writing it off as they are now. Because like we did on that one episode.
Hey, don't say that to T-Pain. Don't do that. He might get disappointed.
He'll be very upset. Yeah. No, that's a fair point.
I think we will find a solution to locomotion inputs that will eventually, it will be costly in the beginning, but it will trickle down and become consumer friendly.
Kind of reminds me of the Power Glove, like the Nintendo Power Glove back in the day.
Yeah.
We all thought that was going to be the future too.
Talking about the design of these SenseGlove Nova gloves is that when I was turning it on, because there's a battery on top, and they can be used for around 3 to 4 hours, so that's not bad. But then the backlight reminded me of the, I don't know how it's called, the engines or the warp thing from Star Trek, from the Enterprise. And I said hey, this looks like the thing from the Enterprise, because I used to watch Star Trek a long time ago. But they said it's inspired by, because we have some people in the office who are, big fans of Star Trek. So
Trekkies.
Yeah, Trekkies.
What do you mean by the backlight?
So it's hard to explain, but you have on the top you have the battery compartment, and when you turn it on, it shows you a light, so it's connected, and it just reminds you of that engine part of the Enterprise spaceship. So this warping kind of glow, this bluish kind of light that kind of, it doesn't pulse, but you do have kind of feeling it does. But it's super easy to connect. You turn it on, you go into the Quest, you go to Bluetooth, and then you connect. Of course, the controllers are attached to your gloves, just saying. But still, it shows up and done. It could be so simple. It's just that Facebook is working on their own gloves, and it's not like they want others to kind of, But this is the first one out there that I tried that can be used with standalone headsets. So that's awesome.
That's cool. Yeah. Nice little hands on there, definitely.
Nice
hands
holiday
on,
in the middle of all this lockdown as well. Actually get to go
true.
somewhere and try some
Dude,
tech.
To go
trust me,
outside.
Such a relief,
it was
I
a
bet.
breath of fresh air to be going to a company again. It felt like, the good old times, and I will definitely do it more. I have already something planned for Far Cry with Ubisoft, so I will be trying that. And if Mike is right about the new engine, then that might be something super super nice to play.
Sweet. Yeah, look forward to
Yeah.
your hands-on with that, definitely.
Yeah.
If you've got any questions for Nathie about the SenseGloves, by the way, put them in the chat and we can read them out at the end of this little segment before we get into the releases. So last week I teased on the show that I've been playing around with a bionic display headset, claiming to have human eye resolution, which Rowdy scoffed at, to play Half-Life Alyx. So I thought I'd talk a bit more about my experience with the Varjo VR1 this week and to kind of address Rowdy's comments. And he is right, to be fair. Questioning this human eye resolution marketing, because it's a marketing term, isn't it? It's like Apple with Retina display.
The Retina displays.
Yeah, and basically they use this term, and Varjo used the term in the same way, is where you have a display that has such a high pixel density that you can't indistinguish between individual pixels. And then they call that like a human resolution display or a Retina display or a bionic display, as Varjo call it. So basically, how this all happened, I can show you the headset. I've got it here. It's an absolute monster. It's very heavy. Oh, and it's like a mirror. It's got a mirror, so you can see exactly what's going on as well.
See right into the
that's weird.
universe.
Yeah. I have to hide my browser history. So you've got the headset there. It's quite a beast. It's something like 950 grams, so it's quite heavy. It comes with this massive, like 10-meter dual fiber optic cable with 2 USB-C ports at the end. But basically, this all started. I've been intrigued about this headset for a long, long time, ever since we talked about it on the show. And I was just looking on eBay one day, because I'm always on the hunt for weird and wonderful things. Actually, segue, sorry about this, I'm sort of going off topic here, but check these bad boys out. These are something else I bought on eBay as well, and these are the original Oculus Quest prototypes that had trackpads and not thumbsticks.
Holy, okay.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
Show that mirrored
That's crazy.
surface.
Yeah. So it's
so
difficult
glossy.
to catch it on the light, but you don't see the thumbsticks there. They're actually trackpads. They actually click in and everything, but this was another find on eBay. So
And wait, do they still work with your
no,
Oculus?
no, you can't connect them to any headset. It's like purely just a collector's item. But yeah, so to sort of like segue, that's I'm always on the hunt for interesting, rare, unique VR headsets and accessories on eBay, and I just came across the Varjo VR1. And originally, when it launched in 2019, it sold for like $6,000 in US dollars. So it's like super expensive. It's like ultra high end. Again, a bit like the SenseGloves, made for the enterprise market, not for consumers. But I was super intrigued. So when I saw it for I think it was like £450, I was like, I got to buy this thing. I've got to buy it. I need to know what it's like playing like Half-Life Alyx or other VR games with this like super high-end headset. I've got the machine to run it, so let's go for it. So I bought it. It arrived. You don't get anything else in the box, by the way. You just get the headset and like a breakout box and a power system. You don't get any controllers. You don't get any base stations. You need to use Steam VR controllers, so you can use Vive ones or Index controllers. You need to use Steam 2.0 base stations. They actually recommend that you use 4 of them.
Jesus.
Luckily enough, when I changed my pledge for the whole Pimax Kickstarter campaign nonsense, and I got Index controllers instead, so I had a second set of Index controllers, I had a second set of base stations, I was able to use them for this test. So, talking about the headset itself, one of the really unique things about this headset is the display technology. Like I said, about this like human eye resolution technology, and how they pull this off is quite unique. And I don't think any other headset available on the market does what Varjo does with their headsets. And this is what they do. They have each eye has 2 displays. So 2 displays per eye. You have a 1440 by 1600 AMOLED context display, which is like the background display. And then you have a really small, tiny 1920 by 1080 focus display right in the center of your field of view, which is a very pixel dense display at 3000 pixels per inch. So they combine these two together using displays using mirrors. So they kind of blend them. So although you can see a line, I would say it's like a blurred seam around the focus display in the middle, it's not like glaringly obvious. Do you know what I mean? You really have to kind of look to see it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's not too distracting.
Just for the purpose of those watching the video, the white box that was that's showing in the video is illustrative. It isn't the same that Mike is. So how apparent, how opaque or translucent is that seam?
Yeah, you can see it, but it is opaque to a certain degree. It does blend. Do you know what I mean? It blends smoothly as well. It's not like a hard ridge cut off from the focus and the context. So they've done a pretty good job in blending them together, which I think is pretty great. And the way I kind of described it is like if you think of like fixed foveated rendering in the Quest. So with software, what they do is they blur the edges or degrade the edges of the field of view, which you don't necessarily see when you're looking directly ahead, to save on performance, right? So that's pretty much what they do with this headset, but they do it with physical displays instead of software.
It's actually like it kind of like reflects to the way that our eyes work as well, because the focal point that we actually see very clearly within the eye is like very small. It's actually like a very small like location, and they've of course made that a square so that if you move your eyes around a little bit, that you still stay roughly within that square as long as you don't go to the edges of your peripheral vision. But your peripheral vision in essence is actually very limited in terms of like, let's call it resolution.
Yeah. Well, because the context display is pretty much what we would call a traditional VR display in terms of resolution. But yeah, you've got this like super sharp display in the center. Now, the problem is that it's not, although this headset does have eye tracking, which I'll talk about shortly, it doesn't track and move that display around like, dynamic foveated rendering we would want in the future. That's like the future concept, right? Where that display would shift around somehow. I don't know how they'd pull that off. That was their ultimate goal, but this is what they stuck with.
The problem is, the good thing with that is that you would save a lot of GPU resources because you wouldn't have to render everything at such a high resolution. But the bad thing is, of course, that you need your entire display to support that high resolution. Yeah. So in terms of cost, it probably drives it up.
Yeah, in terms of like, obviously the high-end visuals are there, but it does have some compromises. Obviously the weight I talked about earlier. Also the field of view is reduced to just 90 degrees field of view, and it runs at just 60 hertz. So you're locked to 60 frames per second in all the VR experiences that you try with this headset. But do bear in mind, this is an older Varjo headset from 2019. The new one is much, much better, which I'll talk about at the end. But yeah, it has this like 2020 eye tracking technology built into the lenses. So surrounding the lenses, you've got these kind of eye trackers. They automatically detect when you're wearing the headset. So it was very difficult to capture any footage through the lenses because as soon as you stuck a camera lens in there, it doesn't detect an eyeball's there. So it turns off the displays. So that's why I had to kind of like do it the way I did with the footage that you're seeing now. Yeah. But the cool thing about this eye tracking technology is that it automatically detects your interpupillary distance, so the distance between your eyes, and it calibrates the lenses automatically, so it actually physically moves them.
Yeah,
the hardware itself.
So an automatic like IPD system.
Yeah. So it automatically perfectly calibrates it every time you put the headset on, which is pretty impressive. And I kind of mentioned that, this is kind of unnecessary for us as consumers because most of us would just put on a headset for the first time, configure your IPD, never touch it again because you're not giving your headset to anyone else, and that's you set. And, with this, it's quite heavy. It takes up space because there's like a mechanical adjustment there, inside the headset that does it automatically, so it adds weight. But for a business headset that's sort of like aimed at showing clients, multiple different clients, projects, or going to an event and showing lots of people VR experiences, having this actually takes away a lot of the friction of the setup each time within each individual user, and it's quite a unique and interesting feature in my opinion.
How much time does that eat up in terms of you're putting the headset on and does it go like and then like is it a couple seconds? Is it 30 seconds?
Yeah, it's seconds. You put the headset on, you see that it's clear, you press a button and it just does it. It adjusts.
It happens after a button input, right? It's not every time that it keeps on adjusting it.
It is a button input. Yeah, you need to confirm it. Yeah.
Okay. And immediate question I have on this one was, how long did you spend polishing the front end of that? Because my God, that's a mirror surface.
It's a fingerprint magnet. It is. It is. And that's the thing. Say you are taking this to events, there's going to be fingerprints all over this thing because it's like a mirror at the front. Although you can actually remove that faceplate and add like a mixed reality pass-through faceplate for this particular headset.
Oh, right.
In the newer one, it's built in automatically, but they had it removable.
Say that again. A mixed reality pass-through faceplate. So you're seeing
mixed reality
on the thing what you're seeing, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they've got a faceplate for the Varjo VR1 with 2 stereo pass-through cameras. Yeah.
Okay, so it's camera pass-through. You're not seeing through a translucent screen or something crazy like that. Yeah.
Camera pass-through.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, the 6K is worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how many cameras does it have in total, like to track?
So it doesn't have any cameras because it uses SteamVR base stations for tracking.
It's outside in.
Yeah, so it's outside in tracking.
But I'm surprised. Did you find anything with the front being mirrored? Because base stations do not like mirrors. They didn't even like, for example, you know, if you buy a poster frame for your room or whatever, it'll come with a sheet of basically plastic. And even that is enough to set those trackers a little bit crazy. Did you find any skipping around or anything like that?
Not really, no. But I don't know. They use some special film because the sensors are definitely behind that front plate because I took it off just to look, so I've seen them there. But no, the mirror display, like the front of it mirrored, doesn't really affect the tracking in any way.
Okay.
So I tried a bunch of demos. Demos were super impressive. Airplane cockpits, car cockpits, some studio in Helsinki. Super detailed, super clear. Clarity in the center is just like absolutely incredible. Better than anything I've ever seen in VR before. But that illusion is broken the second you move your eyes away from the center of your...
How punishing was the performance, Mike? I mean, your rig is top end. So did you get any frame stutter? Did you get any like performance hits when you were playing Alex, for example?
I didn't notice any frame rate drops because the recommended specs, I believe, for this headset are an RTX 2080 Ti and 32 gigabytes of RAM and an i7, whereas I'm running like an i9, 64 gigabytes of RAM, RTX 3090, so surpasses all the required specs pretty high. So yeah, I didn't notice any frame drops, but it is locked to 60 frames per second, so it's not a particularly high number anyway. But of course...
And the tracking in terms of like the controller, so playing the actual game?
Fine. Yeah, no problem. It does use 2 display ports on your card.
That's crazy.
So yeah, so you need 2 display ports.
I saw that. Like, so what kind of how does that work? So I thought there were 4.
So is that one for
each? Yeah.
Each display, or how does that work? No, it's one display.
For one pair. So because it's got 4 displays, so it's one display port for each pair.
So you had to unplug your monitor.
No. I still have my monitor connected. I think I've got 3 display ports on 3090.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and an HDMI. But yeah, aside from the demos, obviously Half-Life Alyx was the game that I really wanted to try this with. And I was surprised it did work. I think Nathy did try this out a while ago because you've got a Varjo as well, actually. You've got this headset.
Yeah, so I had access to Half-Life a month before it came out. And I was like, if there's something epic, it's playing this game with the newest headset on the market, or one of the best ones on the market. I tried. It didn't work. The game just threw out the headset. Then I called Varjo and said, like, listen, can we fix this? So the developers worked on it, but they couldn't get it to, because the game was like a demo version of the game. Yeah. So now I think because they were looking into it, it's now working. But it didn't work for me. So we had to kind of cancel that project.
Yeah. But yeah, it works now. And what I found, particularly in Half-Life Alyx, was that, normally I've played through Half-Life Alyx multiple times and I'd normally just blitz through it. But I was stopping and just like soaking up like every single detail of the environment because it was just so clear and crisp. Yeah. Like you could read ripped posters and ripped bits of graffiti and other bits and pieces in like the lift, for example. I would like read ingredients on the back of beer bottles and cans. I was finding like little hidden sketches and reading through those. Like, there was a newspaper on a park bench that I could clearly read through as well.
Was it a little bit like the experience you had with the refurb when you first tried it, where you're like, whoa, everything comes back to life again? Yeah.
Exactly. Like everything that you took for granted the first time round, you start to you start to notice again and soak all this information up.
Yeah, that game does that so well as well, because like with a lot of games, you just like, it's so action packed, and especially if you're a PC gamer, you like blitz through them. But like with a lot of VR games, like the speed is actually better if it's a bit slower, right? With headsets like this, you kind of take that time to like, appreciate the environment a bit more.
Yeah, and even like Alex's gloves, when you see them up close in that sort of clarity, every single sort of like soldering point and zip tie, you can see them so clearly. Do you know what I mean? And it just gives you this added appreciation for the attention to detail in this game that you may have missed, in previous runs. So yeah, like I thought it was a great experience. Obviously, I didn't really play that much of the game. I was just like loving the environments and seeing things I'd never seen before. But ultimately, you know, I wouldn't recommend doing what I did and buying a headset like this, even if you get one for a great price like I did on eBay, because being locked at 60 frames per second kind of like almost outweighs the clarity in my mind, because it takes away a lot of the smoothness from the gameplay. The headset's very heavy.
Dude,
so
it's freaking heavy. It's so heavy. Like if you play with it for maybe 30 minutes to an hour, you really like the moment you put it on, it feels like almost like one of those army helmets that they have, you know, where it's like it's so chunky thing, you know.
Absolutely. And it's funny because when I posted about it, even Oculus roasted me in their tweets. It was saying that I was like falling over front heavy with this headset, and like that I would have like a ripped neck.
Well, isn't it essentially like wearing two Quests on the front of your head? I mean, you're glad to have the balance on the back, but yeah, it's two, isn't it? Because isn't the Quest a 400 to 500 gram headset?
Depending on the strap you use, yeah.
Dude, that's a total difference, but yeah.
But yeah, so I wouldn't recommend anyone doing what I did, but I think it was really cool to just get a glimpse of what high-end enterprise VR looks like, especially with its unique features like the dual display technology per eye, automatic IPD, and the eye tracking as well was really cool. Like I show a little demo of looking around a supermarket display, and the latency and the accuracy was really great with the eye tracking, so that was really cool.
What was the other headset again from Taiwan? I forgot the name for a moment. The one that they used in arcades. Star VR.
Star VR.
Like that,
and you've also got the XTAL as well, which would be super high end.
The XTAL is even bigger and heavier.
It is.
My God.
My God. But the VR3, like the latest headset from Varjo, which is the 3rd generation one, the one I tried here is the 1st generation headset. It's got a higher refresh rate, higher field of view, higher resolution.
Higher price tag?
It's actually got a cheaper price tag, which is interesting. They dropped the price. And it has full stereo pass-through cameras. And the funny thing is they show like a demo of someone driving with a Varjo VR3 on, using the stereo pass-through for driving.
One, isn't it? Yeah.
Completely insane.
That's insane.
Yeah, so I would love to try their latest headset to see how it compares, but I would imagine it's going to be pretty special when, you know, having tried this one, especially if it's got the unlocked frame rate a little bit higher. I think it's 90 frames per second is the latest one.
And it's, you know, what's interesting too is that it comes with its own software, but in that software there's so much going on. So it's not only again, same with the haptic gloves. It's not just the headset you get, but also the software is really nice.
But what do you mean by that? Like the mixed reality platform, for example, has quite a bit there. I wouldn't say it's a huge value add, but what do you mean by has a lot going on? Do you mean just in terms of the demo content?
You can capture a lot of like metrics. So like for the example with the eye tracking, looking around the supermarket display, for example, you can capture you know, the eye movements as well, which I was able to show off in the video, which was really cool. Normally those kind of features you wouldn't be able to get access to that camera, a bit like the facial tracker. You don't get access to that camera to see what it actually looks like. So it was nice to be able to get access to that. And also the way that I showed the gameplay with the focus display and the context display, and I was able to overlay them to give a good representation of what it looks in the headset, was through like development tools in the Varjo software dashboard.
Okay. Well, it answers a few questions I had watching your video, and I would implore people to watch the full video that you produced, Mike, because I was particularly impressed by it, and it's like one of these things where almost nobody else is putting out a video on this type of thing, but then you make such an awesome splash with it, and the thing is, looking at this headset, as pretty as it is and as far-reaching as it is, I think it's one of those things that's kind of like the forbidden fruit, because if you're using that, it's kind of like if you had broadband before everyone else, when they had internet, where the internet was slow and you'd be trying to download stuff but the throughput wouldn't be enough. I feel it's the same with like a high resolution headset, in that the content you try, aside from Alex for example, you'll probably get to see the seams and the low texture grades. It'll show that off more frequently when you're trying other bits of content. I think Elite Dangerous is probably one that does pretty well and does kind of like 4K and up, 8K level resolution in game. But there aren't that many games right now that you could really use that without making the game kind of look ugly.
You're totally right, because when I tried Beat Saber, it was just broken. It wouldn't show the textures in game. It did work with Pistol Whip, but it just only worked with a handful of games. It didn't work with everything.
That really adds the leg day, doesn't it? Like that amount of weight vertically on your chest.
That's the funny part. Like Mike was able to explain and capture this headset better than Varjo themselves.
Absolutely.
But of course, there are certain things that Mike shows that is not working in their favor when they're trying to sell it to companies. So I do get it to certain degrees. You know, as you said, they're using certain terms. But you're showing it off like it is. So that's great for companies too when they invest into something like that.
And good price you picked it up for, man. Good grab.
It was a bargain.
Oh, that must have been... There can't be many of those floating around, so that's a nice rare catch you got there.
No, definitely. Same with those Oculus controllers as well. It was just a rare find that I was just lucky to get hold of. But yeah, you know, I think for me, you know, like I said earlier with Rowdy about the dynamic foveated rendering, you know, when that little screen in the middle can somehow move around and follow your eyes, that's going to be a really special moment. But we're not quite there yet, even with the latest headset from Varjo.
Like
then games can really start pushing their resolution as well up. Huh?
I feel like with that kind of headset though, I mean, I'm like visual fidelity. It doesn't have to be like crazy good. Like I'm totally fine like where we are with the Quest 2, for example, right now.
Yeah, it's great.
But like having any kind of a line in my scene, like it's the same thing that I found with the Pimax, where on the periphery you have this awful fall off that happens. It's not consistent, and that's why when I first tried the Index, and then it's a consistent view right across, I was like, wow, breath of fresh air. That's really, really nice. Like, just thinking about it, if this became a daily driver, wouldn't that bug the hell out of you? If that was
totally
the case?
Would. Yeah, it totally would. Yeah, it totally would. But, you know, again, you know, it's for enterprise. You know, it's for like Boeing, Volvo.
Imagine this being your daily driver.
They're training astronauts with the Varjo headsets. You know, so they can replicate the cockpit of like space shuttles.
That makes sense.
And you know where all the button layouts are as well, and you can clearly read all the toggles, and that's what is most important with this headset. So yeah, although you know, I would find it distracting for a training scenario and application. Yeah. You know, 6K or now less even for the latest one is just a small drop in the ocean for what it can actually do for these companies.
Yeah, it's amazing though. It's great to see a glimpse of the future and just feel like, oh, that's on the... I mean, the thing is, you kind of feel... I don't know if you guys are like this, but sometimes I'll be sitting there and I know the technology that's there today and I'm not thinking about the future. I'm just kind of happy where I am. But then if you sit down for a minute and you go, in 10 years, what are we going to have? Or in 20 years, what are we going to have? And you think about that, you know, it's awesome. It's a great feeling to think that that's just on the horizon for us now.
100%. But like you say, you know, in terms of hardware, you know, overall, I'm very happy with what we have now on the market. You know, Quest 2 is great, Valve Index is great, HP Reverb is great for you know sim racers if you want that kind of if you love that kind of content. What we do really need is more games right now. I think we all agree with that across the board. But it was just fun to just try something a bit different.
That was fun. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Nice.
So that is our hands-on with some unique VR hardware. Now it's time to pass over to Zim for some game releases, because we are getting some game releases, so we have got some games to look forward to next week.
Yeah, as I was saying to the guys, I think what we've got coming at us is, and I do anticipate 2021, we're going to get a bit of a drip feed month by month. I think that's what's going to happen if I was to forecast what's coming at us. But let me tell you about a couple of jams and some other titles that we've got coming our way. This first one is going to surprise some of you. You're going to be like, what the hell is this, Sim? But there's a topic behind it, so just bear with me. This is called Paper Jam. It's a PC VR game that launched just on the 1st of April, and it wasn't an April Fool's Day joke. So for $6 or £5 from T-Monster Games, the studio behind My Nuclear Octopus and Axe Throw VR brings you a anagram-based high-score game on a timer. So I haven't seen these in a while, actually. This kind of letter-based word game in VR. There used to be typing games and things like that. But if you like Scrabble or Boggle, you know, classic board games that are based on words, the basic premise of this is you've got a bunch of robots and you need to give them a word per book. You have a bunch of letters that appear in front of you, and with motion controllers, you punch out the letters to kind of finish off the word. And it's based on a timer, so you are working away at this, and the robots are coming in and out of this old bookstore sometime in the future. So it's very simple in terms of its gameplay loop. It's a $5, so you know it's not the most extensive kind of game. There is a scoreboard globally, I understand, and a small campaign, but that's basically the kind of gameplay you're going to get. The thing I wanted to ask here and kind of just have a bit of a roundtable discussion about is this kind of game reminds me of things like, for example, The Typing of the Dead, which was like a first-person shooter light gun style typing game, which would help you learn to type. And these days, I mean, I would say that for my kids, for example, it's a more important skill to kind of know how to type and interact with a computer than it is how to write on a piece of paper, because this is what we're using all the time. And then the second game that came out recently was a game called The Texorcist, the story of Roy Bibia, which was basically an exorcism game, exorcism that is, and bullet hell combined with like typing. You type words out and you defeat demons. I want to know why we don't have something like this in VR. There was a game back with the DK1 I remember clearly, where you'd be typing on the keyboard and you'd be battling on this little computer screen, and it was really good. And why? Because you have a headset on, you can't cheat. You know, there's no more of the covering your hands with a towel or whatever. I don't know if you guys did you guys get to like typing lessons in school or anything like that? Is this something that you had to go through in your lives?
So I definitely played Typing of the Dead. You know, I loved that game. You know, I thought it was a genius idea for helping people to learn how to touch type by playing an awesome arcade shooter.
Fucking beats Mavis Beacon, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I can't see it applying really to VR because we haven't got our keyboards in VR just yet. Although I know that Oculus are working on being able to track keyboards, and I'm sure that won't be too long until we're doing that. But with something like this, I just think it's great for kids, as a learning tool. I think it's, increase their vocabulary.
And that's also a thing, like VR isn't officially for kids yet, so that's also why we haven't seen something like this in the store.
But this is for so I certainly don't look at this as a kids thing. I look at this as a word game fan genre that is lacking. And Mike, the point I'm making is not that you would be able to see the keyboard in VR. In fact, it's an advantage that you can't see the keyboard. You don't need it, is the point. Like if you're learning to type, fingers on the home row and away, you're just supposed to kind of pound it out and figure out the location of the keys, which is why I'm wondering why we don't have like an indie studio just pop up and make something that would be quite interesting with that, because you could do all kinds of stuff in your periphery.
Well, maybe the new Splinter Cell game is going to be just that.
Want to learn to kill? Kind of reminds me of? Yeah. It reminds me of playing Boggle with Nathy.
Boggle?
Because, spelling out the words, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. So Boggle or Scrabble fans, that would be one. So I thought I'd just mention that one. That was the only game I thought was worth highlighting from the 1st of April. Let's move on to another one. So again, another, I'll say timer-based game. This one's called Swarm. So this one is a fast-paced arcade-style grapple shooter with quick sessions. This one reminds me of actually playing like Windlands 2 and the first boss, where you're swinging around and with your grappling hook and shooting. And this is basically a game designed kind of solely around that premise. This is for Rift and Quest. Okay, Steam release is coming this summer, and as of the 8th of April, Green Sky Games has dropped again. This you're plunged right into quite a pretty visual. It's cel shaded graphics, and you're grappling off of a variety of grapple points. One thing I would say is that games like this that are intense, demanding, and one for the FPS fans. There's a game like this actually that I managed to play this week called Battle Arena VR. That's free over on applab.games, for example, if you want it. So Spider-Man multiplayer. It's a bit of a rough indie, and this is certainly more polished than that. But if you can't wait a couple of days for Swarm to come out, I would say go check that out with a couple of buddies, and that would be good fun. This one is...
To me, this game just really shows that, Spider-Man in VR would work. Like, it would definitely work. If you see this gameplay, then I go like, oh, man.
That'd be
awesome. Well,
I loved Windlands, so I'm looking forward to giving this one a bash.
Yeah, Swarm. So again, simple premise, but hey, we'll take him if they'll give him to us. So I'll be glad about that. I didn't mention any of the backstory because you're shooting and swinging. You don't need to know much any more than that. All right, just like the next game. I love with these games, like they come up with a game design and then they try to explain why the game exists. It's like, sometimes the story just makes no sense. The next one is no different, okay, which is Traffic Jams. Some of us might remember when Kaz and Cherry featured in the original trailer for this.
But that didn't come out yet?
So Traffic Jams.
I thought this came out a long time ago.
That's what I thought. I thought this was out in 2019. So this is actually landing for PC VR, Quest, and Rift on the 8th of April.
So that was a very early sneak peek. That like a 2-year sneak peek.
I think what happened is they decided to polish it up. It certainly looks a lot prettier in the launch trailer. And now that we've got an official release date for it, what is Traffic Jams? Traffic Jams is basically a game where you are going to become the world's best traffic controller around a couple of iconic cities and different game dynamics in each of those cities. This is the first of its type that I've seen. I certainly have not played a traffic controller game before, but you step on those crossroads and you got to keep traffic flowing. There's cars, there's asteroids, there's a whole bunch of different things, giant dinosaurs, that type of thing. And the kicker for this is that along with dealing with monsters and buzzing traffic and those road ragers around you, is there's a multiplayer element, which is asymmetrical. So you can have 4 non-VR players join you via mobile devices in their couch party mode. I think that's probably the most interesting part of the game for me. I think if I sat down and wanted to play this on my own, I'd kind of be like, all right, maybe. But thinking about doing, we could do an F.Reality thing, and we could have 3 people on mobile phones and 1 person trying to direct traffic.
F.Reality Adventures in Amsterdam.
Adventures in Amsterdam. I love that. They do like
something
New York,
different.
Tokyo, Amsterdam, Anyway. So that's Traffic Jams, which is coming out 8th of April. And that's from Little Chicken Game Company. Another great name for a studio. 2 more. I've got a couple of mentions here for you as well. So for those who've been keeping an eye on Population 1, there is a new, very bizarre feature coming out. It is no longer Population 1. It is Population 18, as 18-player private matches are now out for a limited time, very limited time, and only until April 5th. But if you've got, with your friends, if you can scramble together $539.82, that's the price of 18 copies of Population 1, then you'll be able to get yourself together in a private match, and you and your friends, the closest ones, can play both war and squad modes together. So if you're really itching and you've got enough change, for our UK friends, that's £385 to put it in local currency. If you really got to love Pop 1 for this.
When they're going to put the 1 in Population 1?
I have no idea. I think it's well overdue. They must be saving it for something. And for those of you who saw the Season 2 teaser recently, that it might be Western themed, I still can't tell if that was actually April Fool's. Because they loaded it.
Yeah, the thing is, like, as long as the numbers are good, you don't really have to do anything. And if they drop to a certain threshold, then you're releasing a new update. Like, you have seen this with them. Like, sometimes nothing really happens for a while, and then suddenly it spikes again. I have a feeling it's all about the numbers for them, and when they then update.
I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's so strange that they haven't landed solos yet in Pop 1. It is bizarre. But they keep going the other direction. We had the war mode with 10v10. Now we've got 18-player private mode. And obviously it's a test for them to see if it's going to land well.
Yeah.
I think for VR streamers in particular, when you have a solo mode, I think it's way more compelling, do you know what I mean, to see that one person survive and win a whole game. And that's why people tune into really good Warzone streamers and other sort of battle royale games like Fortnite streamers, because they're rooting for that one person to win the whole game.
Yeah.
I'm sure that, when it does eventually drop, it will spawn more.
Well, wasn't there a wave of people streaming it? Like PewDiePie was streaming the game, and other people were playing it.
I think he unlisted it though. Like, I can't find that stream since.
You always need to team up with people, like, especially if you're like someone like PewDiePie or something. You can't just go into the game with like a bunch of randoms, because people will like call you out immediately, and then you'll just be hunted for the remainder of the game. Yeah. So it'd actually be better, I think, for a solo mode for people like that.
Yeah. But hey, they keep experimenting. I am a fan of experimentation. So, Pop 1, if you want it, private matches, you got it. Just bring about $600 with you. Okay. So in addition to that, again, our little App Lab radar. I think last week I mentioned as well, like synth riders and things like that. So now we've got a nice splash, which is Pavlov. So for those of you who haven't checked out Pavlov yet, it's great FPS. If you want to think of anything, it's Counter-Strike in VR, but with so much more added to that. I mean, it can do basketball, for effect's sake.
They had like 3,000 players the first day.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
And then you wonder, why is it still an App Lab? Why is it not, like, App Lab is basically early access, but
it should just be on the store, right?
Yeah, but it's like, the thing is, App Lab is basically early access. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what they kind of call it. But with this game, it's like, just freaking bring it on the store. Even App Lab is not is not gonna do it.
Yeah, I like it though. Like Shoot House, Zombies, all these add-ons that they've done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Obviously, the World War II stuff that they just added recently, that's not in the Quest build. But it does feature 5v5 social multiplayer, and if you're really itching for a game, this dropping right now, on App Lab is amazing. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So
again, this game is too big for App Lab.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say so there's Pavlov, the PC VR multiplayer game, right, which is paid, and then last year I think around this time they dropped Pavlov Shack, which is their mobile version, but it's pretty darn close. It's got most of the main features. It looks quite similar. Rowdy would be more of an expert in this than I am. But I think the main thing right now that's missing is some of the new maps and updates that they brought to PC. Visuals are obviously cut down, and that's about all I can think of. Anything else that's in terms of the modes that you think is missing from the PC version, Rowd?
Well, PC has, of course, the modding scene behind that, with like those like custom-made maps and like the TTT modes and a lot of stuff. I mean, I wouldn't say that those particularly. I mean, they add to the game, but they don't make the game per se better for a lot of people. Like a lot of kids go and play those kind of modes, of course, especially the TTT ones.
You know who we got to blame for that?
Just
friend. But one thing that was really cool was that the devs kind of gave us a little sneak peek and told us that Pavlov is actually going to be one of the games coming to PSVR 2. So they've already confirmed that they're working on that port, which is going to be really great.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, the thing is that's the perfect community to receive a game like Pavlov.
Yeah,
so that'll echo well. So that was releases for this week. So we got Paper Jam, which was the typing one, Swarm VR, Traffic Jams, Pop 1, and Pavlov Shack Beta now available.
Lots of jams. Strawberry jam.
Jams.
Yeah, lots of jams this week. We've been jammed.
Mushroom jam.
Go watch Spaceballs. All right. That's me. Zim done.
We've been jammed. So if you've got any questions, maybe you can ask us a question, anything about what we've spoken about today or anything about VR in general. You can ask us now in the chat while I sort of recap the show times.
One more thing. So you said Spaceballs. So I don't know if you guys watched this new Space Jam trailer that came out today, Space Jam 2. And it's so weird if you watch it. It's like you're watching Ready Player One. And it's made by Warner Brothers. So it's the same studio. But it's like they used certain assets from Ready Player One and they combined it with Space Jam. I'm serious. If you watch it, you're going to agree.
Okay, I'll check it out. Did they bring R. Kelly back?
No, they did bring back the Iron Giant.
Oh, I think R. Kelly's in prison now, I think. But that was just a stupid joke. Anyway, so just a reminder, if you've got any questions, now's the time. So this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. The show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. Also, check out the audio version, which Rowdy does an excellent job on to make sure it sounds beautiful for your ears. And that's available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed today's stream, and subscribe to the channel for all our future VR podcasts as well. Has anyone heard any news on Deca Gear? Zarundo asks. So it's still in the works. I think it's Q3 this year they're looking for release. They've recently closed off the pre-orders, so you can no longer pre-order at the moment. I think they've got them, maxed out their allocation of hardware. I think it was on last week's show I talked about the Deca Move, was it? Yeah. So that was like their hip tracking module, which I was really impressed with. So if you want to go and check that out, listen out to the end of last week's show. But I think the general consensus, or certainly from me anyway, about Deca Gear is that I was very skeptical at first. I am still skeptical, but more on the optimistic side now, having tried the Deca Move.
I don't think that Q3 is a realistic time frame, though. I think that was probably before COVID that they had that as a time frame.
Oh, no, I think Q3 is the pushback. It was previously earlier than that. Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Another question.
Happy Easter. Good one, yeah.
If you play Pop 1 in squad mode, which members would you ditch out of the four of us?
Pop 1 in squad mode. I would.
Okay, I'm going to say Nathy only because of his singing. Because he sings while he plays.
Banana phone.
He sings Banana Phone. He sings, what's that other song you were singing?
Hey, if you want to have someone in your squad.
The Mary Poppins song. What was it?
Chimney.
There we go. I would play
Jim
100% dump Sim just because he goes for the coins. Back when they had coins.
Fucking love those coins, man.
Back that.
Years of Mario. But no, I know who I would dump. I would dump myself because I'm no longer really into Pop 1. I would just let these guys play. I want them to just like bring a new map out or something, because that map I'm sick of it now.
Something new,
and you can't just
rewarding.
make rock structures across the map and call it an update. Like I get it. Like I'll have to say that the part where they did all the maze and the labyrinth kind of straw bales, that was interesting. Interesting insofar as I knew that if you go in there you die. But after that I was kind of done with their updates. I don't know. I hope that it can come back because I like these kind of.
Yeah, so you're a hater, so you're gonna get out of my squad because you're a hater of the game. But on the other side, then you can charge your headset in the meanwhile, so we can play some walkabout afterwards.
Oh man.
It's all about the walkabout.
Yeah,
you can dub me for that one. I'm not really into that.
I mentioned that last week, but I'll mention it for the viewers. That new space map is absolutely. Tethys Station is my new favorite map. The devs did an incredible job. Mighty Coconut did a great job at making a map really feel transformative from the beginning to the end. Like you start off and you're like, it's a little bit dim and it's in space and all this. I won't say anything more. There are some amazing bits of that map. So if you're a golf fan, go back.
Damn you, Zim, you get me hyped to try out the new maps.
You have to try it. It is the best map they have put out.
Another question from Welsh Saucy asks, Gang V looks like a lot of fun. Have we played it yet?
Oh, Gang V.
Gang V, yeah, not yet. No,
it's interesting.
I think it's invite only, and it's but they're in alpha or whatever now, so it looks suspect.
Isn't
looks
Star Wars Pinball coming soon as well?
Which one?
End of this month.
End of this month, 24th, I think.
Star Wars pinball stuff.
Star Wars pinball.
I'm looking forward to that one.
It's gonna like when you're gonna play the pinball stuff and you play the Mandalorian one, it's gonna hurt because it just reminds you of the Galaxy's Edge game Part 1. And you're like, no.
So maybe this is a good question for us all. What is there a game that you're really looking forward to? I can start if you want.
It was Cosmodread. I think my wish list has been emptied. Like that
so
was
good.
the one. Yeah, and unlike you, Mike, I will be revisiting that, I think, because
have you finished it?
Not yet. No. The thing is, when I don't like, you guys probably know this about me, but I don't like release week because everyone smashes the same game, and it's like I'm not helping the devs by also showing that game, so I'd rather wait to like finish it or try it.
You first spend like 5 hours in the menu, then you spend another 5 hours in the settings, and from there you start playing it.
Yeah,
that's right. 10 hours is where we start.
So for me, I'm really looking forward to Demio from Resolution Games.
Demio. Yeah, that looks interesting.
So the reason why, and I think we talked about this on a previous show, was like, genres that don't get represented well in VR. And I think, that tabletop style gameplay works so well in VR, but is very underused. Yeah. We saw it in like Brass Tactics, for example, implementing incredibly well. But this being like a D&D style adventure, and plus you can play it cooperatively with your friends, so it's like a kind of social hangout as well. I'm really looking forward to that one. So
I would really like some RTS stuff just in general as well, and like tabletop format. I would really appreciate that.
Like Command and Conquer in VR.
Yeah, or Age of Empires, or like like all of those like RTS games. That I'm a huge RTS fan, so it's like I feel that genre is a little bit underrepresented in VR as well. We have like Brass Tactics, which you can consider to be an RTS game, but
I'll never forget where I got destroyed by Cass and Cherry with their dragons in a proper tournament.
Same here. Reality Check took me out, but I think
for me, go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
I'm just gonna say there's a game that I'm hopeful for. So Rocketworks, the guys, it was originally Dean Hall who made DayZ, and we went through a couple of cycles. There's a new game that they've been working on, and they did produce a VR game previously. And I'm hoping their new game, although they haven't teased anything to this, that would have VR support. And the new game is called Icarus. And the basic loop is very simple. It is a survival game. And you start off on a space station, and you jettison down to a planet that's just been recently terraformed. And you have to scavenge, survive, and try to collect stuff, make it back to the pod before a timer runs out, and jettison off. And you do this on repeat, but it's permanent. So your character stays alive and you gather resources and all that. But if you ever die on one of these runs, you don't make it back, you lose everything. And so it just really is interesting to me. It's very much like the DayZ loop where you go in, you got a persistent character, you feel your character, you feel your story, very transformative gameplay. Yep. I've been wanting anything down the bloodline of like DayZ survival, punishing survival in VR multiplayer, and we haven't gotten it yet. So that's what I want, and so I've got a wish that Icarus will bring VR support this year.
Well, you know that Green Hell game seems to be promising too, but we still have to see if that's actually going to pull its tricks, you know?
True.
Yeah.
It's like
we all know what game Nathan's hyped for, don't we?
Ape Escape 4?
Alien Makeout Simulator 2?
Finally. I've been waiting for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good place to end the show. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us this week. And if you're listening to the audio version, we appreciate you all too. We'll, of course, be back next week at the usual time. So have a great week in VR. Take care of yourselves. And bye for now. See you later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.